Hey guys, I'm John Barklow, and today I want to talk to you about primitive signaling. Now, signaling is one of the 7 capabilities that you should have in your possibles pouch. Now, most of us are going to have a cell phone at a minimum when we head into the backcountry. And a lot of us now are even going to have some type of SATCOM device, like an inReach. But those things can break. They can run out of battery. You can drop them in a river. And so you can't always rely on this modern way of communication. And so when you go into a primitive environment, you should have some primitive forms of signaling. Now, these can be very basic. Like this signal panel here. This signal panel is not just visual in the day, but this signal panel will also show up at night via a headlamp brushing across it or an air asset flying over, maybe looking through infrared. Some other ways to signal are with a signal mirror. So this could be a standalone signal mirror like I have here. This could be a mirror on a compass, if that's what you choose to carry. It could be flashing the sun off an emergency space blanket, but something to reflect the sun that will give a rescuer as they come by your location. And then finally, it could be something like a whistle. Now, this is kind of dependent on environmental conditions like the wind, or if you have broken ribs, you might not be able to blow on the whistle. Similar to the signal mirror, if it's not sunny, you may not be able to get that reflection. But if you look at some primitive forms of communication and signaling like the signal panel, the mirror, and the compass, I think it's going to not only make you safer, but it's going to make you a more competent outdoorsman. Now, if my buddy Paul would have had any one of these 3 basic forms of primitive signaling, it would have saved him 3 tortuous days of crawling out of the Bitterroot Mountains years ago when he had no form of communication. He had a pack string of hunters ride by within several hundred yards. He couldn't cry out because of broken ribs. He had a low-flying aircraft fly over a day later. He couldn't signal to that aircraft because he was in the trees. He had no way to communicate. And so these primitive forms of communication are not something that we often look at. And yeah, sure, our phones and our inReaches are going to be that default communication. But I think it's foolish when we go into a primitive environment if we're only relying on modern technology. And so having these capabilities, carrying them in your possibles pouch, is going to make you a safer and more competent person in the backcountry.